Hi folks, today I want to talk about a political movement that's been gaining attention called the Third Term Project. This initiative was recently showcased at CPAC and promotes the idea of a third presidential term for Donald Trump, something that would require a constitutional amendment. But beyond the political push itself, the symbolism used by this project carries significant historical meaning, and that deserves a close look. The emblem of the Third Term Project features an eagle with its wings raised. Between the wings are 24 stars, and above the eagle's head is a crown of 7 stars. While this may seem like just another patriotic image at first glance, the symbols themselves reveal deeper connections to both American history and authoritarian movements. The 24 stars on the emblem are reminiscent of the United States flag between 1822 and 1836. This period was marked by the presidency of Andrew Jackson, a figure Trump himself has often praised. Jackson was known for his populist style, expansion of executive power, and controversial policies like the Indian Removal Act. Trump's admiration for Jackson is well documented. He's even hung Jackson's portrait in the Oval Office during his first term. The use of 24 stars seems to symbolize a desire to return to that era of strong, centralized leadership. The 7 stars above the eagle's head evoke biblical and imperial symbolism. In many traditions, 7 represents completeness or divine authority. But it's also worth noting that fascist regimes such as Mussolini's Italy and Nazi Germany frequently use star crowns and laurels to symbolize dominance and power under a single ruler. We can also see in the image here Trump depicted almost like Caesar Augustus with a laurel wreath over his head beneath the image of the eagle. Let's back up briefly to talk about the historical parallels with regards to Jackson and Caesar. Andrew Jackson's presidency was marked by a strongman approach, with critics calling him King Andrew for his authoritarian tendencies. Similarly, Julius Caesar rose to power in Rome by appealing to the common people, bypassing the Senate, and ultimately declaring himself dictator for life. Trump's rhetoric often mirrors this, positioning himself as the only one who can fix the system and protect a nation from perceived enemies. Like Caesar's supporters, Trump's base sees him as a figure who challenges the establishment. And just as Caesar's consolidation of power ended the Roman Republic, movements like the Third Term Project suggest a willingness to bypass traditional democratic limits for the sake of strong leadership. Now let me briefly talk back on the eagle symbolism and its connection to fascist imagery. So the eagle itself is a powerful symbol, historically representing strength and empire. And while it's been used in American iconography for centuries, it's also a prominent symbol in fascist movements. The Italian fascists under Mussolini and the Nazis under Hitler both adopted eagle imagery, often paired with wreaths, stars, or crowns, as references back to the Roman Empire. The Third Term Project's eagle here, combined with the 24 stars and the 7-star crown, aligns with this authoritarian aesthetic. Now, while the Third Term Project presents itself as a patriotic effort to restore America, the historical and symbolic parallels that it draws with Jackson, Caesar, and even fascist regimes raise serious questions. It's important to look beyond the surface of political movements and understand what the symbols they choose really represent. Whether you support Trump or not, it's worth asking yourself, is the vision being promoted truly about democracy, or is it about consolidating power? History reminds us that when leaders seek to extend their rule beyond constitutional limits, the cost is often freedom itself. I want to go briefly back to those 24 stars for a minute, because when I was editing the video, something stuck out to me and I had to bring it to your attention. Notice in the first row of stars closest to the eagle's crown, if you count them, there's 11. In the second row, they're mismatched. There's 5 stars on the left, a little gap, followed by 8 stars on the right. And the placement of the number of the stars, in addition to the fact that there's 24, made me think this has got to be significant. And I do believe it is, particularly when you know that Trump is surrounded by people who are religious leadership, Christians who are part of the New Apostolic Reformation charismatic movement of Christianity, which heavily relies on numerology and other unbiblical practices. So I wanted to dig into the historical and quote-unquote biblical symbolism of the numbers that are highlighted there and their arrangement. From a historical perspective, the star arrangement itself does seem to be very carefully chosen. 11 stars, the number 11 historically represents disruption, judgment, and transition. It can symbolize the collapse of an old order before something new takes its place. In the second row, we have 5 stars followed by 8 stars. 5 is often associated with power, command, and leadership. In military terms, a 5-star general holds the highest rank of authority. 8 stars, 8 traditionally represents new beginnings, resurrection, and renewal, marking the start of a new era. So together, this pattern seems to convey a narrative of disruption, followed by executive control and the establishment of a new order. That literally aligns with the project's push to redefine leadership under Trump. With regards to biblical perspective symbolism, the numbers also carry a significant and similar meaning. 11 in Scripture often symbolizes chaos, disorder, or judgment, a time of perhaps instability before restoration. 5 represents a period of grace and divine favor, often preceding significant change. And 8 also represents resurrection and new creation, often associated with the Lord's restoration of order. So again, it could be interpreted as a type of messianic restoration where judgment leads to grace and new beginnings. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and I encourage you, look into this for yourself. It's always worth knowing the deeper story behind the symbols that we see.